Shalom, shalom, everybody. Prophet here, Lyrical Entertainment Ministries. So I'm going to be doing a series called Spiritual Encounters, okay, where I go into detail about different incidences and occurrences that happened in my life. I'll give my firsthand testimony, my account on the different experiences. And hopefully it serves as not only a testimony to encourage others, but also as some reinforcement to kind of help understand why I have so much faith in the Most High, okay? I know it's kind of far-fetched when we hear about pastors talk about spiritual things, especially in the church. And so it kind of goes in one ear and out the other, or we'll just agree with it, you know. Or when we read about, you know, different spiritual things that happens in the scriptures, you know, we read about it, we accept it, and we move on. We don't really take it to heart. But let something happen in real life. Someone tells you that they saw a spirit, they saw a ghost, they were attacked or possessed by a demon, or something of that nature, then we instantly go and we oh, this person crazy. You know what I'm saying? And my understanding has always been like this. If you read about it in scripture and it happens in real life, doesn't that just validate scripture? Why does the truth that's in scripture is truth, but when you hear about something like that in our actual everyday lives, it's far-fetched and it's a story, it's a fairy tale, or that person is crazy, they're mentally unstable? And then let any of that happen to you personally in your life, then you want people to believe you. And when you're met with that odd stare or people kind of shunning you or keeping distance from you, then it's a problem for you. But we do it to each other. And I'm not here to say that every single account that's spoken is truthful. Some people bend the truth. Some people tell lies, try to deceive, or whatever the case may be. That's why we have a spirit of discernment. But with that said, this is going to be video number 1 in a series. I don't know how many videos I'm going to do just yet. I might do one for each incident, and then maybe a video to wrap everything up. I'm not sure. But let's go back to the beginning for me, right? So for those of you guys who don't know me, okay, my mother, my actual birth mother, she passed away when I was 3 years old, okay? And real quick, I'll do a little bit of background. So my entire life and my entire childhood, I never felt like I fit in. I've always felt like an outcast. I've always felt like I didn't belong. It was nothing anyone said or necessarily did. I just never felt like I was a part of like the normal society while people were playing with the other kids were playing with their toys and riding bikes and stuff. I mean, yeah, I did some of those things, but I would be sitting there thinking about, like, you know, where I belong. And I'll be looking up at the sky and I'm like, you know, am I supposed to even be here? It was just weird. I never felt fully at home. I could be at a party with a room full of people and music playing, and I'll still feel alone. It was really odd. And I would see things, I would hear things, I would feel things, and I couldn't explain them. And when I was a kid, a lot of it was when I would try to, like, because when you're a kid and you see something, you're honest. You run to the nearest adult and you try to explain everything that just happened. And all of the adults, they take something that a kid says with a grain of salt. Like, oh, that's just your imagination or whatever. But I've always felt like that. And I never really knew why. So first encounter, like I said, my mother passed when I was 3. And I'm from Chicago, and we lived on the west side of Chicago, and we stayed in a 2-flat, kind of like a townhouse. It was kind of similar to like for those who know what like a brownstone is from like New York, it's kind of similar to that. Not as fancy, of course, but the building itself was owned by my family. My grandmother and my uncle lived on the first floor, and me, my mom, and my dad, we lived on the second floor. And my dad, he worked for this company called Richco Plastics. It was a plastics company where they would make different items for different machines and different things like that, but it was all plastic oriented. So he worked for that company for over 20 something years before they closed down, but he always worked the night shift. So he would always go to work at night, come in the morning, and my mother would she would do things that a wife would do and stuff like that. But she got ill. She was diagnosed with lupus. And in the last year of her life, she was like bedridden and in and out of the hospital and things like that, until she eventually was in hospice care, and she actually came back to the house, and they turned the bedroom into like a hospital room. The nurse would come and check on her and different things like that. But when she finally actually passed away, my dad, he had to provide, so he continued working. Now throughout the night, since I was upstairs by myself, essentially, my grandmother and my uncle would come and check on me, because the way the building was designed, downstairs when you first go, like if you're outside, there's a porch. Once you walk up to the house, there's this large, huge steel door, but it's more of a gate than a door. Once you get through that, there's a large wooden door. Both of those stayed locked, so there was no way inside from the outside. But there's an inner corridor or hallway, however you want to call it, before you get to the downstairs front door, and before you get to the door that once you open it, it takes you upstairs to the second floor door. I know there's a lot of doors, but it was pretty secure. Well, during the time when my dad would work, they would lock the big steel door on the front porch and the big wooden door, and they would leave the other doors unlocked so they can walk freely up and down. And they would check on me every 15, 20 minutes or so until they knew that I was completely asleep. And then from there, maybe they would check on me, I wouldn't know, but I would be knocked out. So this was about, I would say about 2 to 3 weeks after my mother passed away. And I would always stay up as late as I could before having to go to bed. And this one particular night, I was sitting in the front room of my house, sitting next to, like, I had this old school pony, right? It was connected to springs. You get on it, you could ride it or whatever. But I was sitting next to that, and I was playing with my ABC blocks. Old school ABC blocks, the ones made out of wood and everything, right? So I'm playing with my ABC blocks, and I hear a knock at the door, right? And this was probably between 9 and 10:30 p.m. because my father would leave to go to work between 7:30 and 8:30, and he was already gone. And he was gone for a while because I was playing with my blocks, which is why I say between 9 and 11. And so I heard a knock at the door, and it was weird because nobody knocked. If it was ever my grandmother or my uncle, they would literally just open the door, and just check on me, like, hey, how you doing? Making sure you're good to go. But this particular night, no, heard a knock. I go to the door, and I say, who is it? And I heard my mom's voice. And I'm like, huh? You know, it didn't really register because my mother passing was the first time I was introduced to death. And so I was still at that point trying to wrap my mind around my mother being gone and never coming back, because that's how they explained it. You know, she's in a better place now. You won't see her, but she lives on in your heart. Like, that's the way that's kind of the way they broke it down to me. Well, I said, who is it? And she said, it's me. It's your mother. So, me being a kid, I'm like, oh, okay, mama. I open the door. And so I open the door. And what do I see? All right, so like I said, what do I see? I see my mother. My mother. In her favorite gown, okay? And she was right there in the doorway. I opened the door. There she was. I stepped off to the side, and I let her in, and she walked right in. I was surprised. I can't even explain all the emotions, but they weren't intense. For some reason, it was a good feeling. I was happy to see my mom again, but it's almost like a spirit came over me and let me know that, you know, there was no need to be afraid. Two, that, you know, it's my mom. So it was that sense of familiarity, you know. I was used to her. I saw her, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a stranger or anything like that. And then I was so young, you know, the whole term spirit and different things like that didn't even really come into play. To me, it was my mom, right? So she comes in. I closed the door, and she was just looking down at me, and she was smiling. And I look up at her, and then she took my hand, and I was just excited, and I was just ready to talk to her, and I wanted to catch up with her, and, you know, ask how everything was. But like I said, just like me being a kid, the first thing came out of my mouth was, "Mommy, you want to play blocks with me?" So she said, "Sure." So we walked over to where I was playing with my ABC blocks, and we both sat there on the floor right there, and we started talking. And I was telling her what was told to me about death, and how I wouldn't see her anymore, and how she's in a better place, and different things like that. And she basically told me, you know, that she wouldn't be coming back. It was my job to take care of my dad and to watch over everyone, and that she loved me, and she'd be watching over me and different things like that. And, you know, if I was to hear that as a grown adult, you know, I'd probably break down crying and stuff like that. But as a kid, I was just like, okay, yes, ma'am. You know, like, I went through the whole ordeal. Just, it was different, right? It was different. Through the eyes of a child, they're so pure and so innocent. Like, they can take certain things and it not, you know, be over dramatic or over expressed. And so we sat there, we talked. She played with the blocks with me for a little bit. Like I said, when she took my hand, it felt warm. It felt like she was alive. It wasn't cold or anything like that. We played with the blocks moved. Everything was normal. It was my mom, but it just so happens that she had passed 3 weeks earlier. And so we talked more and more. And then I was like excited about playing, so I was trying to keep her there. I was trying to stall. But she was like, you know, it's time for her to go. And, you know, that would be the last time I see her. And then that's when the emotions started to come, and it started to kind of connect and click that, you know, this is the last time I'll see my mom. because the time before that was actually physically at her funeral, where I really wasn't understanding the fact that she was gone, and my family was, telling me to go up and see her in the casket. Now, some people, they have their reservations about children seeing their parents or whoever in a casket, kind of traumatizing them or whatever, but they encouraged me to go and see my mom. I walk up to her, and she's laying there in the casket, and they let me kiss her. So I kissed her, and I always remember her forehead was really, really cold. I know now it was, because of the, embalming fluid and everything like that goes into the process of, preparing the body and everything like that. But I didn't understand that as a kid. I just always remembered that cold feeling, that cold sensation. And so she was telling me that it was time for her to go. And now the emotions are coming in, and I'm getting sad because I want to spend more time with my mom. And, she was like, don't be sad, don't cry, it's okay. Just reassuring me that she loved me. And she took my hand again. We walk over to the door. And I want to say almost immediately, the sadness went away because I believed her. Like, I honestly, truly believed her. And she gave me a hug. She gave me a kiss on the cheek. And she said she had to go. And I opened the door. She walked out. I closed the door. And that was it. I walked back over to my blocks. And I wanted to cry, but I wanted to be strong for her. Me and my mom had a specific dynamic. She always called me her little man, and I always tried to be tough around her. And I would always playfully talk back to her, not in a disrespectful way. Like, she'll say something to me like, clean your room, and I'll kind of give her this look, and I'll say something like, I don't know, like something stupid, like you're gonna make me, or it was our thing, you know what I mean? And she'd always peek her head around the corner and look at me and say, "I'm gonna get you," because I would call her by her first name, and on purpose, instead of saying mommy, I would call her Connie, and I'll say whatever I say, and then I'll end it with Connie, and she used to hate it. So she'd always used to tell me she's gonna get me. So we just had that dynamic. And when I got back over, I started playing with my blocks. And like I said, I wanted to cry, but then I thought about her. And I thought about, calling her Connie and how we had that dynamic. And I just was like, I need to be strong for mom, And dad had to be strong for my pops, because, that whole thing happened. He was strong for it. You could tell, because he knew he had to take care of me and be strong for the family and everything. But I knew he was hurting still, you know what I mean? This was only 3 weeks after it happened. But not too long. It was about I give it about 5 or 10 minutes of me playing with my blocks again. My grandma, she comes up and she opens the door. And I had this huge smile on my face, like from ear to ear. And she came up to check on me, and she said, how you doing? I was like, I'm good. I saw my mama. And then she kind of, ignorantly, swept what I said under the rug and was like, yeah, baby, I see mommy too. And I said, no, grandma, like I saw her. Like, I just saw her. Like, we was kicking it, like, a couple minutes ago. And she kind of, shook it under the rug again. And so, you know how adults will patronize you, agree with you, or try to, like, say they understand. Yeah, it was one of those. So, I said, look, I don't care what none of y'all talking about. I know what I saw. I know what happened. I can't wait for my daddy to get home. My daddy gonna believe me. So after she checked on me, she left. And then I played, I guess, for a little bit longer. And then I, called it a day, went and got in my bed and went to sleep. Well, every morning when my dad would come home from work, he would come in and he would kiss me. So the next morning he came in and he kissed me. And as soon as I woke up, I said, Dad, I saw Mom. He was like, what? Now I explained to him, what happened, like verbatim. I gave him every detail, what we talked about, what she was wearing, what she felt like, everything. And he told me he believed me. And in the moment, like I said, I rock with my father. Like those of you who know me know my dad was my G, my everyone, my everything, my A1, my day one, all of that. So he said he believed me, and I believed that he believed me. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I realized he was probably patronizing me a little bit. But my pops had a way with words, so hey, that's all I needed to hear at the time. But I explained to him what happened, and he said he believed me, and I went about my business. I told everybody I could, like all my family members and stuff like that. And the majority of them kind of swept it under the rug or patronized me and said, oh yeah, we know. But to this day, I remember it vividly. I remember it like it happened yesterday. It was crazy, but I know it was her. Like I know my mom, man. Like it wasn't nothing sinister about it. There was no flickering of lights or anything like that. She was warm. She was real. That was my mom. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know. And so, like I'll end all of my videos in this series. It's up to you to take what I'm speaking and giving these testimonies as the truth or however you want to take it. Like I said, I'm just sharing the experiences that I've had in my life, and hopefully it can encourage, one of you. Maybe you are dealing with some type of supernatural occurrence, and you just don't know what to do, you don't know who to talk to, or something like that. Or maybe you've experienced something in the past, and one person has a story, the other person has a story. They exchange their story, they talk about it, and it's fellowship. But with that said, like I said, believe me or not, it's completely fine with me. I'm just here to share my story with you guys. So that's the first time I ever had a supernatural encounter. I was 3, and it was with my mom. So until the next video, you guys be blessed, and shalom.